Hi, I'm Pete Larkin with news of this week's BBC College Special. New music pioneer Gary Numan discusses his music, life, and influences during an exclusive interview. Join us for the words and music of Gary Numan on this week's BBC College Special, right here. Hi, I'm Pete Larkin, and welcome to a BBC College Special presented by London Wavelength and On Music and Media magazine. This week we'll hear music and conversation with one of rock's most controversial pioneers, Gary Numan. And now, Dallas correspondent George Jimmark.
With the album Replicas, it almost seems you took on the persona of the Mac Man.
Really, I only had that character for that one album. It stayed around the live situation a bit longer, and it was developed and made very, very slick. And in the end, it became too slick, and it was like a second-rate Star Wars. And that's all it became. It became a bit embarrassing, became a bit of a joke, which is why another reason why I pulled out, because I needed to change all that. And I wasn't interested in it anymore. I was being made to sing about machines, and I wasn't interested in machines anymore. And everyone kept saying that I wrote futuristic albums, and I didn't. Replicas was a futuristic album. Pleasure Principle wasn't. It had one or two songs in it which are left over from the Replicas period, which were futurist. And like, as soon as I got into Telecon, the next album, it wasn't at all. And yet it was still considered to be like, they give it some silly titles.
Well, I guess people get stuck on whenever they hear a synthesizer, oh, future music.
Yeah, I think that was a problem actually. It was the instrument which people were reviewing rather than the music, which is unfortunate, but that's a problem if you're early on in something, I suppose.
Replicas also gave you your first hit record, Our Friends Electric.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, you're on the old gray whistle test, and Top of the Pops and all that.
Yeah.
Was that a bit of a shock?
It was a bit sudden. 1 week, like a Monday, I was nothing. I'd never been written about in the papers. I hadn't been on stage for about 18 months at all. And then the Tuesday we found out we was doing this television show. And then a week later we was number 20. And about a month later we'd been number 1 for about 4 weeks. And it was from nowhere to something literally overnight. The fastest rise to success I've ever known amongst anyone. Took me by surprise a little bit.
Did you have to suddenly alter your lifestyle?
No, because the lifestyle doesn't change quickly. Not really. There's no money at the door instantly. That takes a long time to come. There's the occasional limousine turns up to take you somewhere. And all of a sudden you're doing TV all the time, where before you was just sitting in the front room on your piano, and that's all. Or you'll catch a train up to London, and they send a Rolls Royce to pick you up, and that was different. But it's surprisingly how quickly you accept things when they're good. And it's also surprising how badly you accept things when they're bad. Like when you lose money, it's very, very hard. But when you're getting it like that, then it's very easy to just... Well, I found it very easy to stay like relatively normal, not to be affected by it, because I'd always expected it. And as far as I'm concerned, it was just something that was always going to happen. And that's probably conceited, but I think if you don't feel that way, then you don't make it.
Now I'm alone, now I can think for myself about little deals and issues, things that I just don't understand. I could white light at night, or it's like a touch at times. I don't think I mean anything to you. And I'm lonely, but I should never have tried. I missed you tonight, so it's time to leave. You see, I mean everything to me.
Our Friends Electric. It's like an old friend if I don't do it on the stage show anymore because it doesn't really fit into the present style that I like, the funk style. It's very hard to adapt to a funk style, but it is a song that started everything, that caused everything, and that made everything, and it's just like an old friend.
Did you get along with Fame?
I don't know. I got along with Rich. I got along with money. I don't know if I got along with being famous. I don't think I like being famous. It goes against my character. Recognition and stuff like that.
You're a rather shy individual at heart.
I'm damn near antisocial, actually. More than shy. I don't go out. I don't mix. I do my things with my few select people that are around me, and that's it. Very, very close to my family, and I don't like intrusion.
Up to 1979, your third LP in 12 months.
Yeah, I was busy that year.
Yeah, you were living in the studio, weren't you?
I was living at home. The first album took 4 days. The Replicas took 5 days, and Pleasure Principle took 11 days.
You make it sound so easy.
I don't see why it has to take any longer. I think when you spend 6 weeks doing rhythm tracks, or 6 days, I heard some band doing a drum sound, then I think you're verging on ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't honestly believe that a listener is going to be able to tell the difference after 6 days for a drum sound.
And there's some bands that will write their tunes in the studio.
Yeah, but even that, I mean, I did that on the last album, on the very latest album, because I wasn't there. I was flying around the world before, and so the whole thing was written and recorded in about 2.5 months, and that was in my own studio, so I could afford to relax a bit and just go at a slow pace.
How do you write songs?
It's like building a skeleton and filling in the gaps, just like that. I start with a drum machine, simply for timekeeping purposes, and then I just make it up as I go along. And I write nearly everything on a Yamaha CP30 electric piano now. I used to write it on an acoustic piano at home, but it's got beyond repair.
We've got to mention this record, your giant hit here in the States. I guess it was your one shot on the air, briefly in '79, was Cars. Where here in my car I feel safest, and it's just kind of like my home on wheels, or my home, period.
I prefer to think of it as a tank. It's the only thing I felt safe in. I don't walk anywhere. Very rarely do I walk out. I'm nervous when I'm out, when I'm not in my car. When I'm in a car, I mean, I got a Ferrari now, for the sole reason that it goes faster than the Corvette, because then it can get me away from trouble quicker.
Do you feel vulnerable being in a small car, though?
No. Makes you feel like I'm in a fighter. And if anything happens, it can get me away at 190 miles an hour.
You've done many other terrific records besides Cars. This is one of them, We Are Glass, which, for some reason, that's the only place you can buy it, is on a 45.
It's available on the tape cassette of Telecom, and so is I Die You Die as an extra, a little bit something extra, but not on record, no.
This is what you would consider getting into your adult period?
Yes, definitely. That's the beginning of it.
And
That's
here-
when the songs actually started to become powerful. Where before they had just been skippy tunes. We Are Glass, I like that because of the video. Good video to that one. Still got the vacuum cleaner pipe on the cover. A stupid damn spacesuit from that original punk record I made.
Is that it?
Yeah, it's the same one.
So on the back of Telecon, we see you holding a piece of a vacuum cleaner.
Yep, that's my mum's vacuum cleaner pipe. You'd never know that.
Well, we do now. You've spilled it now. What do you think your responsibility is as a performer?
If somebody pays $10 for an album to get $10 worth of music on it, and that's all, no more, no less. I don't believe we should preach, and I don't believe in messages. I think if you go out to see a show, you could get whatever you pay for the ticket, you should get that in a show.
Entertainment.
Yeah, that is what it's about, I think. If you want to be a politician, then be a politician. If you want to stop nuclear arms, and join someone else's army. I mean, a song for like art's sake, if you like Pink Floyd, for example, is all very well, because they never actually try to make it anything more than just a song. Whereas certain of the punk bands would try and make you believe that it was all very genuine, and they really did come from this particular society or whatever, or particular place, and they really believed in what they were singing about, and being paid, like vast amounts of money. No one ever had the guts to just stand up and say this is fashion, and that's all it ever was, just fashion. What the hell do we know about anything? What do I know? I was a lorry driver 3 years ago, driving trucks around in a forklift driver. And what do I know about the world? And yet all of a sudden people want to say, what do you think about this, and what do you think about nuclear arms? Well, what do I know?
Whatever you've read.
Yeah. I've read someone else's opinions. I don't know anything about that. I know how to fly an aeroplane. That's what I know.
A lot of bands seem to crop up in 78 and 79 that people would say, oh, they sound just like Gary Numan. Do you think you influenced a lot of people musically in that period of British music?
I think all I really did was show people how to present a new instrument, because nobody had got it right. I never claimed to be the first at it, because I wasn't. And I certainly never claimed to be the best at it, because I'm not musically adept enough to do that. But all I ever really did was just show it right. I presented it right, and I looked right. It was just timing, that's all.
Was image, the dress, the stage show, did that factor in very, very important to you?
Yeah, that is presentation. People don't listen to a TV station, they look at it. And people don't listen to a show, they listen to a record, they go to see a show. And people very rarely come away from a show talking about what particular piece of music was played. They talk about what lights are on, or what movement the singer did, or whether he was sexy or whether he wasn't. They don't talk about what they heard. So how you look is vital.
Between telecon and dance, I guess you went into your retirement.
I wanted to do
take
something
it off the road.
different. I didn't want to do that metal stuff anymore.
I'd heard you say one time, this really tickled me, that you'd gotten tired of looking like a set designer for Battlestar Galactica or something.
Yeah, cheap extra from Star Wars. Yeah, that's how I felt. It was embarrassing. It just became embarrassing. In its time, it was great. So I'm told, but...
Was it hard getting rid of that character that you'd created?
No, it's damn easy, actually. I just needed time away from it, that's all. When I was already away from it, I was just dressing up in someone else's clothes. As far as me, myself, was concerned.
What did it take to find a new character to become?
Just 10 minutes watching the television. I saw a program about Howard Hughes, and there you go. So I look like Howard Hughes now, so now I'm a cheap extra from a Howard Hughes documentary.
You are
We'll be back with more of our conversation with Gary Numan after these messages. And now back to our BBC College special, Music and Conversation with Gary Numan.
She sits in the corner where it's reasonably quiet, drinking coffee with cream, thinking stories of young love. She calls to the waiter, won't you lend me some time? You can sit by my side and I'll let you be friends with mine. The cafe is out, but the candlelight new. She orders Beaujolais wine and says the thought of you too. She whispers, isn't it odd? You remind me of songs that I'd rather forget, like Venus I long for. You hold me inside. Sometimes I recall, question mistakes that grew to nothing at all. I hear voices that cry, oh, one of them's mine. Not the things I could say are the reasons I gone. She says, I've seen you before in full cycle sound, like an album with sound. When the lid comes undone, the waiter is me, and the woman is you. And we are the story, just like other sign, yo.
Let me ask you about two singles that were very puzzling to me. That one and that one. The Paul Gardner, Stormtroopers in Drag, and the Love Needs No Disguise, Gary Numan, Dramatis. They both sounded like Gary Numan records to me.
Yeah, just unfortunate that. On Stormtrooper in Drag. Nice title, that, isn't it?
I like
Stormtrooper in
that
Drag.
one. It's a good visual image.
Yeah, that's a co-written thing with Paul Gardner. Used to be my old bass player. He'd done a song, and I said I'd sing it right and write the words for him because he can't sing. So he said fine, so I did it, and that was that one. It probably sounds like me because he's been with me for so long. But I thought it was a little odd actually. I mean, it's like a guitar song, which I hadn't done for a long time. See, he's into John Cale, so to him it sounded very much like John Cale. It did to me actually. It didn't sound like me really. The Dramatis thing, I just went down the studio to see him one day because they split up from me now. Anyway, I went down the studio just to see him. They had this song that they was doing. They just wanted to do the vocal for it, and they said, did I want to do it? So I did, just like that, and I did it. It took about, I don't know, 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, just first time through, and then I went home.
She's saying love needs no disguise.
on your trip around the world. Why did you do that?
Prove I was a man. I used to say that it was something I'd always wanted to do, but it wasn't.
Were you trying to escape?
I wasn't trying to escape anyone. I've always been, you see, I've never been a fighter, not since I was about 15, 16. I've not been I don't do drugs, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any things which are considered manly. Although I consider them to be a little bit idiotic. I mean, getting drunk and throwing up in a gutter I don't particularly see as manly, but they are the accepted things in life as being manly, right?
Oh, what fun.
Yeah, lumberjack sort of stuff.
Yes.
We're all men, we get sick every night. Anyway, and whether you agree with it or not, that is the accepted thing for being a man. And I don't do that. And I don't fight. I don't like to fight. I don't get off on violence at all. I used to think sometimes, well, you know, what kind of a man are you? And so I did that. I wanted to find out whether I had any courage or not. I wanted to find out whether I could face death and whistle a tune. And I did.
Well, I was, it was strange. You should mention the Howard Hughes bit, and then you fly around the world, which is kind of a Howard Hughes sort of stunt.
Yeah, he was a clever man. He really was. One of my heroes, actually.
Gary Numan has heroes?
Yeah, one or two. Mainly pilots.
And then we see Music for Chameleons.
This is the first song I wrote for the album. This was the vocal line for this was actually written while flying over Kansas on the round the world trip. I sang the tune in my head to the vibrations of the engine. Not a vibration, it's that when the propellers are slightly out of sync, that they resonate. And I got it from that. And the whole riff and everything come from that. The first funk song I ever made.
A funky guy. With Pino Palladino, who's with you as we speak, I guess.
Yeah. Probably quite possibly actually the best bass player. Certainly I think the best bass player in Britain, in Europe. Possibly, or certainly will be in the world, I think. He's only young, he's only 25. 25 yesterday.
That's coming from a real old man himself, right?
How do you mean?
Well, you're only 24, aren't you?
Yeah, I know, but I feel about 50. I've seen too much. I've seen too many things.
Hey, boys down.
What would be the theme of I, Assassin?
An assassin. The archetypal 30s type grey, black and white film. Where he stands in a back alleyway. Just that we've vamped it up a bit.
White boys and heroes. Getting back to black and white movies with that one?
The whole thing relates to an actor. Or any actor. It's all roles. Yeah, it's all games really, I suppose. It's a very simple song. There's no great message despite the title. I was a little bit worried that people might think it was racist because I said white boys, but I really didn't mean anything by it.
You're one of the few people I've talked to that the music business is it's halfway between being an amusement and a nuisance.
When I wrote the title for the live album, I called it Living Ornaments, and that's exactly what we are. We put up on walls and we put up on shelves and we looked at and sneered at and loved. And we're alive. And I feel like a chimpanzee in a zoo sometimes. And other times you feel like a god. It's a strange business.
I'm trying to figure out where you're headed after this. Trying to predict you, I guess. And it's getting difficult now.
I think it's getting difficult because I haven't got a clue where I'm going. I used to know. I used to know exactly what I'd be doing, 2 or 3 albums ahead, and what I would do with this and which would lead to the next one and so on. And I don't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore. I don't know what I'm going to be doing now. I'm doing this for now, I'm not doing it for tomorrow. I'm not doing it for yesterday. I'm doing it now because I want to. And I certainly don't want to do this forever. I don't think it could possibly be fun forever. And one day when I fade, I won't come back. And I'm not gonna, I didn't talk about retiring last time, I just said I didn't want to do concerts anymore. And people would make of that what they will, and they would write, retire this, retire that. And I just got tired of arguing. No.
We haven't heard the last of you though, have we?
Not for a while. I don't want to keep getting into this I'm retiring, I'm not retiring business. You know, one day there'll be an album, and one day there won't. And that's the last you'll ever hear. And someone will say, wonder whatever happened to that Numan fella? And they say, oh, he's married and living on a farm in Cornwall. Is that right?
Yeah, you can just drive down the road, look for the Cessna in the backyard.
Yeah, and that'll be me.
Well, thank you, Gary.
Thank you, cheers.
We're in the movies with heroes, we sparkle at night. Love among puppets, and one day I'll pull all the strings. White boys and heroes. White boys and my wife, the doctor, the patients are something obscene. The history of nothing like a see-through song in disguise. Heroes are tough and have no time for women and boys. I won't cry, so this thing is over and someone agrees. White boys and heroes. White boys and heroes. See boys they See boys they Go from top again. boys and heroes. White boys and heroes.